Hello and welcome to the first episode podcast of I don't even know. It's like episode 1, series 1, season 1, video 1. Yeah. We're just gonna be talking about d.i.d stuff and whatever rolls off the tongue. I was on Twitch for a little bit there, but we had issues with the gaming stream stuff. I wasn't able to do that. That's basically the theory upon everything is I'm not able to do that. Yeah, but welcome in. Hello. Glad everybody is here. On the other stream I was talking about us moving in, and when we moved in to the house, how many boxes we had. How do you get rid of all the boxes? I'm looking over at our garage and it's just like filled with boxes. Alright, and people are probably gonna be like, oh, how does that relate to d.i.d? It relates because it's one garage, but there's a ton of boxes in there. Like a ton of boxes. And there's at least 50, if not 100 boxes. It kind of makes me laugh because it's kind of like us, you know? We're one person with many people inside, and boxes are just storage, and a garage is just storage, and so there's a bunch of tiny storage containers inside the giant storage container. And I don't know why I related to that so hard, but I did. No, the cardboard boxes aren't broken down, but we do plan on making a rat fort because the rats need outside playtime, and we haven't been able to give that to them yet. Simply due to, like, just not having a rat-proofed space for them just yet. No, not a cat fort, a rat fort. R-A-T, not C-A-T. But yeah. I don't know if there's, like, anything specific you guys want me to talk about. We've lost a couple of viewers because probably just because I've been talking about cardboard boxes and nobody really cares about cardboard boxes. But the other thing that I was talking about earlier, the other thing I was talking about earlier was everyday life, and like how just waking up is like the hardest thing for us to do. I feel like waking up for us is just one of the hardest things to do. There's like a ton of work that goes into opening your eyes and not closing them again, and rolling out of bed. Like, rolling out of bed is, like, the hardest thing for us, and we gotta, like, get up, and, like, when we're getting up, we have to open our eyes, decide that we're getting out of bed. We can't just sit in bed. If we wake up and we sit in bed, we will fall back asleep. So we have to immediately make the choice to get out of bed, get up, go into the restroom, and like put water on our face. Otherwise, we're just gonna fall back asleep. And if we fall back asleep, there's no telling if we're going to sleep for 4 hours, 30 minutes, or until nighttime. Like there's like naps don't exist for us unless we're setting a solid alarm. But yeah, so I guess just like waking up is hard. And that's how we start our day. We start our day with the choice of, do we get up or do we tempt ourselves with a little bit more sleep? Like we tell ourselves, 30 more minutes, and sometimes it turns out to be 3 more hours. And so we have to make that's our first thing in the morning, is making that decision, and it depends on who wakes up. So if Casper, for instance, wakes up in the body, there is a 90% chance that she is going to roll over and pass back out. and not reset the alarm either. Like, she doesn't reset the alarm either. Yeah, and so it really depends. Casper, like I said, 90% chance he's gonna, or they go by different pronouns all the time. Currently it's she. Sometimes it's he. But it's a 90% chance that she'll roll over and fall back asleep. And then our next challenge is our hair too greasy? Do we have to take a shower? Or can we just wash our face? And that is like the hardest. Like, taking a shower is so hard for us sometimes. It's like, why should we stand for a moment and feel uncomfortable? The last couple of days we've had people stay up until like 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's like, that doesn't work for us. We have a schedule. The hardest thing for us is getting people to fall asleep and getting people to wake up. But yeah, and so like, our next choice of the day is to take a shower or get dressed or whatever. And most of the time, we'll decide to take a shower. Just because, like, the shower is a luxurious one, and we always feel better. And brushing our teeth and eating breakfast. Most days we don't eat breakfast. We don't really eat breakfast, but when we do, we enjoy it. But yeah, so we don't really eat breakfast unless somebody wakes up and decides that breakfast is what they want. If we do end up eating breakfast, like, it actually starts us off better, I feel like. Today we just had fruit snacks. We woke up at like almost 11. We were supposed to start streaming at, or not 11, almost 12. Breakfast just didn't really happen this morning. We had fruit snacks. We woke up at 12 and had fruit snacks and orange juice. Which was honestly, it was great. That's more than we normally get. And we came up here. But that's our next decision in the day, is, are we going to eat breakfast or are we going to skip breakfast? And it's either before or after our shower, so we have to decide if we're going to take a shower before or after breakfast. I can't really say what goes on the rest of the day. We have like these moments of solid dissociation where it's just like, and I'm even right now, I'm just like, wow, somebody wants to switch, and that's another decision that we have to make. Gatekeepers have to be like, okay, yeah, you can come out. And sometimes gatekeepers don't always catch that somebody's fronting, because people can be quite sneaky. And I don't know if anybody else has that issue of just like alters sneaking out and you not knowing about it because you're losing time. Yeah, that happens to us quite a bit. The other day, last night, if you missed it, there was a viewer in here in chat. We were playing the Goose game. There was a viewer in here that was talking about, and we deleted his comments, so we didn't agree with his views and things like that. But there was a viewer in here that said that d.i.d. was like a game because you get to choose your alters, and it's like, no, that doesn't happen. He was talking about like the different parts of the brain, and how specific it would have to be. He said it was kind of like the Sims game and kept comparing us to crystals, and he thought it was BS that we said we're all part of one whole or something like that. And then he told us to watch our violent tendencies because of our video that Ethel did talking about how Daniel, our persecutor, would, had violent thoughts. But yeah, and it was really disturbing, and I was not enjoying myself when that happened. I think it was Leon that was in here. I think Leon was the one playing the Goose game. But it really disturbed him. Like, I can't believe there's still people out there. Like, okay, I feel like even neurotypicals have violent thoughts all the time. And neurotypicals have violent thoughts. It's a normal human thing that, we don't act on them, but they're there. It's not bad to acknowledge that they're there. Like, it's good to acknowledge that so you can kind of keep track of it and figure it out. I've not met one human being ever that has not had a single violent thought. Like, he was very rude and super inconsiderate of what we were doing. Like, we were playing a game. Intrusive thoughts are normal, and people just don't admit that they have them because people would be like, oh my god, you have intrusive thoughts? That's horrible. Like, I would never think of harming anybody. But these high and mighty people, I would never think of harming anybody. I would never think of that. And it's like, I promise you, you probably will sometime in your life. It is normal to have, violent thoughts and violent tendencies. What's not normal is giving in to them and, not realizing that something's right or something's wrong. Like, everyone's going to have violent thoughts at some point in their life, and it's not Daniel's fault that the reason he's here is violent tendencies. Like, there's more to it than that. I'm not really able to say very much more, but like, when we were in middle school, and our friends like played along with this, so we thought it was okay. Middle school, we were in like history class or something, and if our friend said something slightly jokingly insulting, we would like punch her in the leg, and she would punch us in the arm, and we thought it was a fun, something fun. I don't know. It was kind of messed up. That came from our brother, like, squeezing the back of our neck and pushing us to the ground. Daniel, the reason why he is violent and says violent things and thinks violent things, like, he doesn't physically take action out here, is because of trauma. Like, when that person said that yesterday, he was making fun of an altar that has issues with trauma. It's not his fault. It's nobody's fault that they have intrusive thoughts. I mean, even neurotypicals. It's not their fault. It's human nature. And people just think that because we're a system, it makes us dangerous. And that's what I have an issue with. We have pretty strong amnesia between certain alters. So, okay, this is one thing that we've gotten asked about before as well. How can you switch and just know what's going on and you know, whatever, and claim you have d.i.d? And for those people, we've worked really hard on communication. And so when we were, you know, working on that, one of the things we worked on was becoming co-conscious with somebody. So sharing the front with them and seeing what's going on and gaining the information. Like, even if you can't talk to the other person that's out, if you have amnesia between the two of you, you can still view what's going on. Like, you can see, and you know, we can see, and then once we switch, you know, that person knows what's going on. So most of the time, if we are doing something, say we're journaling, well, not journaling, but drawing or sewing or making food, the person switching out, if we're doing something important, we'll know what's going on. And like, if it's a rapid switch, they're not gonna have any idea. But when we're doing important stuff, like, that's, yeah. If an alter in the system is fronting and smokes weed and then switches, does the other alter feel high? Yes. I mean, the body is, it depends on tolerance. It's the same thing with, like, drinking and smoking and anything else. It depends on the tolerance of the next alter coming out. Tolerance does differ between various alters. So with Kay, she loves that MJ. She can come out after somebody's smoked. She can come out after somebody else has smoked and feel pretty much nothing. But yes, the alters can go back inner world and still feel high. Good topic. But yeah, so inner world and outer world can affect alters. If they get high inner world, they come out and they feel high. And that happens all the time, which is probably why I'm feeling so weird right now, is because Leon is still kind of around from yesterday. Yeah, some alters can watch horror film. Like, let's just go with horror films, because that's just easiest. Ethel absolutely adores horror. It's everything for him. And we have alters such as Grace. No, not Grace. Sorry, Eden. They're very close in amnesia feels. But Eden, who absolutely does not like horror and is significantly triggered by it due to like past horror stuff. And so that can be pretty triggering for her, while Ethel is just really excited to watch anything horror. Sometimes you just gotta vibe to music while you switch. And that helps. The topic was amnesia. Amnesia sucks, man. This is Saturn, by the way. I'm gonna change my text. But yeah, hello. My name is Saturn, and I shouldn't have come out, but I did, and there are 40 people here. Yikes. Don't leave though. Don't leave. My god, this is crazy. 40 people watching me. Also, thank you all for your love and support on our video. Me and my brother. Does dissociation ever feel comforting? Yes. And I can explain that in a bit. But yeah, my brother is really excited that somebody said that we were meh. And I don't know what that means, but I have more energy today than I did that day, and I think it's due to Sadie. But yeah, so amnesia. Oh, do you know where we were in talking about amnesia? I guess I guess that I experienced amnesia pretty harshly between alters. I just know that Sadie was out because we kind of like said hello as we passed, but I haven't been paying attention to the stream. Anyway, so we were talking about amnesia. I don't know what we were talking about amnesia though. I don't know, there's different types of amnesia. There's amnesia between alters, and there's amnesia between like the front. But yeah, so like between alters, it's really hard to describe because when you're standing next to them, I mean, you can kind of see them, but you can't really hear what they're saying even when you're in a world. And so you kind of have to like work that amnesia barrier away, especially if you're not around one another. Me, for instance, I don't know where I am. I just know I'm up north, and I don't have contact with any of the other alters other than switching out and fronting. So yeah, that's my experience with amnesia. I don't know. I don't know anybody else's in my system currently. I just know that it kind of depends on where you are and who you're friends with and how much you've talked and all that good jazz. Sometimes it can be distressing, especially if we're trying to do like a specific task, but if we're just like hanging out and we don't really feel all that well, dissociation, like, it just kind of makes everything calm down and stop for a minute. And like, sometimes we purposely dissociate just because like we're uncomfortable with something, and sometimes we accidentally dissociate when we're uncomfortable with something sometimes. So yeah, for dissociation, like, it can feel comfortable, and 0 is always in a state of discomfort but also comfort. It's really hard to explain, but that's just kind of like us. And people can hang out in the inner world during sleep, yeah. If they don't sleep and they're the one who decides to switch out, like, oof. When they wake up, that's probably part of the reason why we're always tired. Sorry, I thought I saw something in the yard, but that's probably why, you know, we're always tired when we wake up, is because somebody switches out and, like, they've been up all night. And it's just rude. It's rude. That's what I think of that. It's rude to do that. It's rude to be an alter and to stay up all night and then switch out once you wake up. It's just rude. And can an alter switch during dreams? Yeah. We've had alters like start dreaming and then decide that well, no, not decide. Obviously, they're dreaming. Sorry, my train of thought is like everywhere right now. But no, like, you start dreaming, and then if, like, you can't control switches in your sleep. It just happens. We've experienced other alters' dreams before, and we've been like in them, and it was so confusing. It was so confusing. Like, it's not even lucid dreaming, it's just dreaming, and you're there, and everyone's so confused because you're not supposed to be there. That's happened to us a couple of times. It's also cued us in on some alters' pseudo-memory trauma that's happened to them. Some alters come in system with pseudo-memories, and it's just like interesting. Can't see the inner world. When I look inward, I see nothing but blackness. If I call an alter to try and talk to someone, I can just barely make out their face. I can hear them if they talk to me. Yeah, that's part of amnesia and communication, is not being able to see the inner world. When you take a look back, I have this issue. I can't see the inner world. I know vaguely where I am, but I can't see the inner world. When I'm out here, at least. You had a friend with d.i.d. They only shared it with you after several years of being best friends. They wanted to stop seeing each other. What do you think people around their friends with d.i.d. should do? So, people without d.i.d. around people with d.i.d. How should the singlets react or act or things like that? If that's the question, if they're unaccepting, they definitely should if they're unaccepting and they're gonna trash talk their friend that they've had for years, I think it's best for the friendship to stop. Just for everyone's mental health. Like, nobody likes trashing on anybody, and well, some people do, but nobody really likes trashing on anybody. But if you're willing to accept the fact that they have d.i.d., ask who's fronting, you know? Ask who's fronting. Generally see, like, how they're feeling, and if you see a pattern in, like, specific alters fronting, try to ask, like, simple questions to make them feel acknowledged, like, what's their favorite food, what's their favorite color, should they should you watch a movie together, what you know, things that'll make them feel happy to front and be around you, because I mean, you can't control your friend's d.i.d, and alters are gonna front no matter what, so it's just like trying to... Man, no, I'm getting dissociated. But yeah, just try to be knowledgeable of the alters. How many alters are in our system? We were talking about this last night on our stream, I think. It was either 160 or 180, I can't remember. We're getting up there, though. We have discovered new places in our inner world. So I guess we can, like, go to talking about inner world stuff. Podcasts are usually an hour, but, like, we can talk a little bit longer. This can kind of be like a wrap-up thing. Our inner world is based off of four different things. So we have 4 different areas. That's what I meant. And I'm getting fed this information, so excuse me if I talk really weird. So we have the veil, which the veil is a place alters go when they need a break, when they've had too much and they just need to get away. No alter really knows about the veil, they just know it exists. And when they need, it's like a very interesting protective amnesia barrier. When alters need a break, it's almost like their brain just tells them to go there. If they're feeling really stressed out or anything like that, it's like a magnet. It pulls negative energy to it. And once you leave the veil, you don't really remember exactly what happened. You know you were there, but you don't really remember what happened while you were there. You just feel really refreshed, and you feel like you can breathe and continue going on about your life. So people know it exists, and people know you go there to de-stress, but nobody really knows what happens in the veil. And then we have the mainland, which consists of a couple of different regional areas. So we have the tribal lands, we have the mountain pass, we have the main houses, the shadow forest, we have the riverbank, and then the bridge. So we have several tribes. The most prominent is the West tribe, the Bird tribe, and the Nether tribe. And they all have their interesting like treaties together and such. And then we have like the city, which kind of like leads to the main houses. So the city is kind of where people go if they want to party or have a job, grocery shopping, things like that. I'll get to the animals in a moment. And so there's a road between the city and the main houses. And people will come to the city if they need to get re-socialized. Like if somebody's out on the road and they're just like nomading it and they want to re-engage in system stuff, they'll come into the city to get themselves reoriented, and then they decide what area of the system they want to belong in. And then you have the main houses where most of our main fronters live. Obviously not all of them, but a lot of our main fronters like Ashley, Xander, Kinder, I think that's most of our main oh yeah, Sadie, our host, Max. Max isn't really a main fronter anymore though. Yeah, so that's where they live. And then you have the Shadow Forest, which puts into play the animal question that you're asking. So in the Dark Forest or Shadow Woods or whatever you want to call it, we have hellhounds. And one of them is an altar, but the rest of them are kind of like non-playable, or NPCs, non-playable characters. And so these hellhounds, they have pretty much no skin on their head, but their body is like this cured leather feeling skin. And I'm getting this information fed from Grace. Grace is a very interesting person in our system. She goes through different levels of our system, which is kind of like different dimensions. So it's like we have some weird stuff going on too. And so the Grace is actually has like a hellhound, and she rides it around sometimes. And these things are massive. I'm talking like house size massive, almost house size massive. Maybe like one of the special ed school buses. Like, yeah, that's not really a house. That's more like a mobile home. But Grace likes to exaggerate, it sounds like. But yeah, and so for a long time, the tribes were scared of the hellhounds because, you know, they had to hunt, and what better population to consume than a dense population of people? Um, and so they had to come up with protective measures and such. And then we have nighthawks, who also reside in the shadow forest. They're bigger than a moose. They're about the size of like a special ed school bus, or like half of a school bus. Not half of a special ed school, but just half of a regular school bus. And then we have the nighthawks. We have the nighthawks that they only hunt at night, and so the tribes also are wary of them, and they have to put up like flames at night and make sure they don't go out, including in the rain. So it's really intense, and those guys are purely bone. I don't know how they fly, but they're purely bone. Besides like their chest area, because they have to house their digestive system somewhere. But yeah, so that's the like regions of the mainland. The scarf was gifted. That was the regions of the mainland. And oh, the empire! I almost forgot about the empire. Somebody was like screaming at me, and I couldn't hear them. But then one word got through, and it was like empire. And I'm like, okay, I can talk about that. And ooh, our next podcast can be about the history of our inner world, like the history between the empire and the island, and that would be cool. Because we're really kind of closing in on the end here. I'm just kind of going over this, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll make this a regular thing. We can do a podcast a week or something. Yeah. So the Empire is like the last big place on the mainland, and they kind of control a lot. They control. They basically they make up rules for the mainland, and we have the guard, who is kind of like the army out here, but they're very specifically and specially trained. Sophia's leader of the guard, and Axel is also a part of the guard. I believe Banter is too. And then like we have Emperor Jonah. Emperor Jonah. He's pretty awesome. He there's a history between Sophia and him. Like, he asked Sophia out when they were like teenagers, and then it didn't work out and they had to break up. And then like recently, Sophia was like trying to come on to Jonah, and Jonah was like, I'm gay. And unfortunately, this is the second time this has happened to Sophia. Because Sophia was, if you remember, Sophia was dating Liberty in her, you know, relationships with each other. But Sophia was dating Liberty. And then Liberty said that he was gay. And then she tried to date Jonah, and Jonah said he was gay. So she sure knows how to pick him. But yeah, so I think that's the Empire. You know, they have like little city sanctions and stuff for different tiers. And then a few miles away, like this all vasts, like so many miles. It takes so long to get across our system. And then we have the lakeside and the, or not lakeside, riverside and the shore, and the bridge. And the bridge is this, so we have Okay, let's say this is the mainland and this is the island, and then this right here is like the river. So in between we have the bridge that goes like this, and then it dips down into the river and goes up. And for a long time that was destroyed and nobody knew why. And we'll probably get into that next podcast. But so it was like an underwater river, or not river, underwater bridge. And so it was actually destroyed for a long time. And we had a bunch of people rebuild it. And a lot of people are like, how do you rebuild an underwater bridge? It took a lot of effort. And so we had to like rebuild the part of it that goes underwater. We had to lift that all out of water. We had to get that, pull it up, and pull it to shore and fix it on there. And then we had to cap off the sides of it. And it was just like this whole big thing. And so we capped that off, and then we capped the sides of both sides of the bridge off to like get the water out of there. And so we fixed it, and then we put it back, and we had to, you know, have like pull-out panels that auto-sealed after they were pulled out, so no water could get into the underground bridge. And so, like, you can now go into that bridge and just go underwater, and you can kind of see what's going on underwater. There are a few windows in it, but not really. And then you have the you get onto the island, and it's like a total change of scenery. These people have like Skyrim type built houses. They have their own empire. They have entryways into the catacombs, which, again, next podcast. And oh man, it's so vast and extraordinary, really. And so they have their own systems over there. Not systems, but like ways of doing things. They have their own stuff over there on different ways of doing things. And so those people, it's so interesting. They don't work the way we do on the mainland. And a lot of people are confused. And that's where a lot of our new altars are coming from. So like, that loops back to the question, how many altars are in our system? We don't actually know. So far, we think about 160 to 180. But with the discovery of the island and all its different sections, so we have somewhere a map of the island, and there's different sections. There's like a Skyrim type feeling place, and then there's like I don't know, like old timey, like Rome. It feels like Rome, at least from the pictures that we've seen. And then there's like, oh sorry, there's like 7 different sections, and then there's a forest that nobody has gone into. So there's just like a whole lot that goes into the different sections of our system, and it's like we don't even know half the people of our system. We have them written down, but it's just crazy. It's wild. It really is. It's wild. Do any of our altars have jobs? Yes. We in the city, that's kind of where jobs take place. I don't know specifically who, because I have heavy amnesia barriers surrounding other altars. But yeah, so some altars do have jobs. That's grocery store clerks. We have a strip club, which, I mean, I'm not going to get into, but we have it. A bar. There's a couple other things. And, you know, people just do what they want to do. If they feel like working, that's what they do. How do I feel when I look inward? I feel empty because I can't see anything. It's all black for me. Most of us have extremely limited access to our inner world. What are some ways we can gain access to more parts of our inner world? Communication. That's the answer to a lot of things, is communication. Start writing to your altars in journals and trying to look inward, self-meditation, reaching out to altars inwardly, shouting, screaming, whatever you can do. And yeah, but communication's the big one. Your subsystem only has one altar at a time able to enter the rest of the system. Do you have any subsystems, and if so, does that happen for them? Yeah. That I feel like that maybe the background music is music we have made. It's our own music, and you can find it on Kitso Art's channel. It's our art channel. So yes, we do have a few subsystems. Sophia is one of them, from what I've been told, and I don't know if I'm one. But yes, so as far as I know, when somebody is fronting in their subsystem, that's the only altar that can experience the inner world. It's always scary for me to look inward. Any tips on it seeming less scary and empty? I'm not sure because I can't actually see my inner world. But yeah, so I'm not positive. I personally don't have any tips. So if anybody else has tips, feel free to comment in chat. Like we don't know everything, and I certainly don't. I'm fairly new, and I'm getting information fed to me. Like there's what we call the system cloud. And not everybody can access it, but anybody that can access it can grab information and send it to whoever needs it, if it's shareable information. If it's something private, that it kind of has like a safety lock on it, like a thought lock, and that's kind of nice. But yeah, so we kind of have like a system cloud memory bank for important information, and if an altar has been able to access it, it just kind of gets shoved to the altar who needs it. It's a pretty nice thing. That would explain the angry letter from one of the gatekeepers. Yeah, that can definitely explain some things. That's them trying to communicate right back. Take that letter, and I would suggest just writing back to them, letting them know, your thoughts on everything that goes on. Any subsystem altars who actually acquire their own body? We call it pulling out. So we've pulled a few people out of subsystems that feel more solid, or like less of fragmenty pieces. And so they get their own body. But yeah, so we kind of call it like pulling altars out of their subsystem. One of our altars, who's a pretty frequent fronter, went deeper into the inner world away from the front a week and a half, and we haven't seen anything from him since. Should we be worried? No, I don't think so. I think some altars, they need to come out and figure some stuff out for themselves, and sometimes that takes a month, 2 months, and it could be exploring different places in inner world and finding some stuff out. So they could be doing their own work on their own. So I wouldn't worry. Yeah, I think they're just giving themselves their own space, and that's important. Okay, I have a question. Sorry if it's confusing. So the others in my system have kept me force-fronted for the past few years. Only recently have I started to feel co-con. I've tried notes and yelling at them, but I'm really good at doubting them actually being there and not just voices in my head. Is there any way I can actually get their attention from out here? So they're refusing to front, and you've tried yelling at them. It sounds like you've tried the aggressive approach, so I would suggest trying the soft approach. Maybe making a journal entry, asking them, like, is everybody okay? Is there anything anybody needs? And trying to entice them forward by creating this caring atmosphere. If that makes any sense. So I suggest writing maybe a journal entry and leaving it open, like leaving a question, like write a question, how are you doing, what is your name, things like that, and just leave it in a journal that's open onto that page so they can see it, and keep it somewhere that they can see it, so that way they feel enticed to come forward and participate and let you know what's going on. Is it possible for an altar to hold memories that you used to remember, but now you can't? Even though you still know that they happened, you can't at all remember it. Yeah, so we call them, oh man, we had a word for those types of altars. Memory grabbers? I feel like that's what it was. I'm not positive though. But yeah, we call them memory grabbers, I think. And they tend to hold memories that might be like harmful to you. Even if they're happening to you, and it's happened to us a couple of times as far as I know. Alright guys, well, that's going to wrap up our podcast and live stream for today. Thank you for your great questions and everything that's happening and whatnot. Thank you all for joining us here, and you guys have a great day, night, evening, wherever it is, wherever you are, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.